Hey, everybody. I've been on this trying to figure life out thing for a long time, and I think I've figured out that it's about trying to figure myself out. And I've had great mentors. I've had people teach me wonderful things over the years that I have either practiced or not practiced, but nevertheless, they shared their wisdom. And I wanted to share some of those things with you via some of the short clips in my podcast. The reason I wrote my books, the reason I do my podcast is to try to pay forward the wisdom that was shared with me. So I want to plant some of those seeds for you, and I hope to help you out. Things a wonderful mentor of mine said to me many moons ago. He said, Daryl, first things first, and the rest will be added on. And I think that's just such a beautiful way to perceive my life is if I do the stuff, the meditating, for me, breath work and gratitude, all those things.
Yes.
The rest comes, the rest shows up. I'm fascinated by it, that life unfolds in front of me. And on my way down, I'm reassuring myself that the mountain is my friend because it's very difficult. But the thing that has helped me the most, Amit, and this is the reason for my story, is when I pay attention to my breath and I breathe with my belly and I slow my breath down, in addition to verifying that the mountain is my friend, it's amazing how my heart rate stays at a lower level, how the climbing itself is significantly easier. And it's a beautiful experience as opposed to an arduous one. All I really wanted was to feel better. And that's all I wanted when I was at the beginning of my journey. But it's not just about wanting to feel better. It's about the journey to becoming better. And then I'll feel better, and I think that's the interesting part to me. As your friend mentioned about, once you see that adversity and then that it can happen, you just acknowledge that can be a part of the journey. And I think that expands over time for me, it's expanded over time to there's a requirement that I have to go through some difficult stuff for me to grow. You've brought up a couple times the concept of blame. And I just, I find that to be so critical. And as I continue to traverse this path, it's fascinating how, things show up in me and I discover more about myself, but you get a better picture of everything that goes on. And now I recoil from, oh, it's their fault, or it's their fault, or it's that fault, or it's politics' fault, or whatever, or it's religion's fault. It's nobody's freaking fault, but it is somebody's responsibility. And the responsibility is mine. And that path goes on forever. I think I talk about a little bit in my book, big hole in the middle of my chest, and kind of a black hole. Everything just sorts of get sucked in, including my soul and everything else. And that's why I like when they talk about in the big book, they talk about I think it's in the big book, spiritual malady, which I think, based on when that was written, you could almost even look at that as emotional/spiritual malady, I believe.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And that's where I was at. My bottom was like that. It was an emotional devastation, brokenness.
I grew up in a fairly religious household. And so meditation was, what's that? Like, here's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to church. You're supposed to try to be a decent human being. And here's your stuff of what you're allowed to believe. And that's that's your religion. And that's what I was handed when I was a kid. And so anything that was outside of that was weird. And like, oh, is that something I'm allowed to do, as far as religion is concerned? And so I had to break down some of those barriers. I had to learn how to expand what I allowed and what I looked at and what I explored. And that was a great, those were great moments for me when I let myself read things that weren't what the church taught when I was a kid. There was a time in my life that all I wanted to be a better person, but I wanted to feel better. I just wanted to feel like I belong here. I'm not, nuts. I can have a happy life, right? Like I'm allowed to have a happy life. And I think that's something that we miss sometimes. We miss that it's so simple, and we run over the simplicity because, like, no, it can't be that simple. And we always have to back up, or at least I had to back up to simplicity. And that's where the growth started for me. And you had spoken earlier, Mary Beth, about knowing that it's your responsibility, and that the road that you're on is based on your choices and based on what you decide to do with your life. And I think that's so incredibly crucial to know, because that's freedom. When the choices I make allow me to have the life that I want, that's freedom, because I can choose, and life isn't chosen for me, nor am I blaming life for where I'm at. And I think those are important things to understand for people starting in recovery or in a current state of struggle. You had mentioned the room, moving the furniture, moving the drapes. The thing that was happening in my mind at that time was the room is me.
Mm-hmm.
The room is inside of me. So I've got to move some stuff, and I got to look, and I got to pay attention to all those boxes that are in the attic, right? And move around and figure out what's going on up there, because while all that noise is happening, that little voice is something that gets squashed. So we have to, and I find that removing myself from the noise and finding quiet is what helps take care of that voice that's trying to get me to do stuff that's destructive, and allow that little resonant voice to start speaking. You hit a bottom, and then you had to, teach yourself how to rise from that bottom. And there's just a lot of fruit in there that we can talk about. But I think the biggest thing that hits me about changing one's life is, when am I ready to take responsibility for everything in my life, and what I'm responsible for, my family and my finances and all that stuff, right? I mean, that's the important stuff. What am I gonna be responsible for, and what am I gonna make happen?
100%.
What they used to say to me when I was first coming around 12-step tables is, humility is another word for teachable. And how many times did you say in your story, they told me to do this and I did it. They told me to do this and I did it. They told me to do this and I did it. And that's exactly my story, because I didn't know shit from Shinola.
Yep.
And I did what they told me to do. For me, the 12 steps created a roadmap that helped me get there. And then, at some point in my sobriety or my recovery, I started defining success as, if I just wake up in the morning with a smile on my face, that's what I want, but that included, good relationships. That included, a decent financial picture. That included, a purpose or meaning to my life, and included a lot of those things that are so important. I guess, recovery is a difficult road. There is no doubt, but I have found, and I'd love to hear from you, Ryan, it's better than I ever imagined it could be. Reminds me of my sponsor, Bud. One of the first things I noticed was his eyes and the peace in his eyes. And I was like, I just want a little bit of that, just give me some of that. And
you bet.
Yeah, that was crucial for me to find someone like that, right? There's a lot of people who frequent the meetings and the tables and, don't have that twinkle in their eye.
Yeah.
And those are the people I want to be like, because I want that peace and I want that, right? That serenity and wake up with a smile on your face and go to bed with, not just the whole thing swirling all the time. Like, it's crucial. And I think it's crucial to have that, to stay, sober, clean, whatever it is, to sort of exercise those demons. If you've enjoyed When I Stop Fighting the podcast, please check out my books and my journals on my website, DarylDittmer.com. Enjoy a 15% discount by using the code PODCAST, DARYLDITTMER.com.